So we're gonna try and get back to a regular scheduled thing. I lost my job in July, and so I have been doing Uber and everything. So at this point, I am just trying to make a living doing something that's not customer service for the rest of my life. So I've decided that today I'm going to play with some polymer clay and make some bookshelves. I have some metal bookmarks upstairs that are going to be perfect for to hang these on for people, for books, for whatever. I am talking quietly because my partner is still technically in class, so I'm trying not to interrupt her, but I just decided I wanted to stream, so I'm going to do that anyway. I hope everybody is having a good night so far. There should be some nice lo-fi music playing in the background, and at this point I am just going to keep going with what I'm doing. If you have any questions, just pop in and let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. My setup is very basic and chaotic. I just enjoy making things for the heck of making things. I make junk journals, I make polymer clay things, I make resiny things, I make pretty much anything. I also currently have a Warhammer Blood Bowl team that I'm painting minis for. Again, I got all these things that I'm doing, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask. In the meantime, I've got this going on. I may try to chat once she is off her class. She's in law school, so I'm not going to interrupt that mess. But in the meantime, I hope everybody's having a good Sunday night. But like I said, I'm going to try and get back to doing this on a regular basis and not just farting around on everybody else's time. Let's see here. It looks like I had somebody come by and follow me. Let's see here. And Wood Braun 103, thank you for giving me the hey, you can pay to have followers. I don't feel like paying to have followers. If people want to find me and follow me, they're welcome to. If they don't want to, that is perfectly fine as well. Yeah, so here's where I am, here's what I'm doing. And like I said, if anybody has any questions or concerns, you can hit me up, but I'm really just chilling. Yeah. Let's see how today goes. Cornstarch to stop things from sticking, because that's super helpful. I have a whole box of white Sculpey somewhere upstairs that I need to hunt down, because I can paint all these little bitty things the way I want to, and I can just cut them out of white, so I can paint them later, especially the little books. So I have all of that. Thank you, Bottom Rodent. I'm good. I don't want to pay for followers. If people find me, they find me. If they don't, they don't. I'm not doing it to make money. I'm just doing it to be here. Because why not? Of new cutters from Temu. Cute. Double-headed bunny rabbit. Very interesting cross. Voodoo doll. Medusa. Bow. Yeah, so these are fun. They'll be a blast. Not that anybody's here watching, but if you are, I do want to let you know that Medusa actually has a very interesting story behind her. If you ever see somebody with a Medusa tattoo, you should ask them if it is a traditional meaning or if they have another meaning for it. Most of the time, people who have a Medusa tattoo have been sexually assaulted in one way or another, or have some sort of sexual harassment, sexual trauma, because Medusa was, the story of Medusa is that Medusa was a priestess in Athena's temple, and she was very beautiful, and being very beautiful, she attracted, let me double check, it may have been Aphrodite's temple, either Athena's or Aphrodite's temple, and I'll double check that, but she was a priestess in her temple, and she was so pretty that Apollo wanted her in all the ways possible. And when Apollo came to her and said, hey, I want to do things to you, she said, no, I'm not like that, because of my goddess, I am sworn to her, I'm a virgin, that's not how this works. And he said, we'll see about that. And so he took her and raped her. And because she was raped and he left her on the steps of the temple, that the goddess took pity on her and made her into this beast. She had to punish her for losing her virginity in her service, even though it wasn't her fault. She was raped, but the goddess took pity on her and said, you know what, I'm going to give you a way to protect yourself and others from this ever happening again. And so Athena, or Aphrodite, I can't remember which, and I'll get back to you on that one, basically said, okay, so I'm going to turn you into this creature. This is your punishment for losing your virginity in my service. And so she turned her into the Gorgon that she is, and she's become a protector of the sexually harassed, sexually hurt, and all of those who have been traumatized by sexual anything. So when you see someone with an Athena tattoo, check with them, because they may have it for a specific reason, and usually that specific reason is because someone has harmed them in a specific way. So you never know what battle someone is fighting. And that being said, things of this nature are usually one of those that you look at people and you can see where it came from and what the reasoning behind it is. Most people with tattoos usually have reasonings behind it. Mine tell my journey throughout my life, and I have never gotten a Medusa tattoo, and I likely never will, because that is not something that has happened to me, nor is it something that I would wish upon my worst enemies. So at this point, if you ever see somebody with a Medusa tattoo, just ask them if it is a traditional tattoo for its specific meaning, or if they have their own meaning behind it. If they say it's a traditional meaning, you know that they've got some trauma. But people always think that tattoos are these horrible things that, people just put on their bodies for whatever reason. But if you ever ask somebody why they have the tattoos they have, you're going to get a very interesting story out of someone. I have a great many tattoos. I think I lost count at like 36. And I love my tattoos. My tattoos are a map of the journey of my life. I tell people that stitches on my hands are because I'm a huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan. Well, while I am a huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan, when I got them, I was stitching myself up from a relationship that was detrimental to me, detrimental to my health, detrimental to everything in my life at the time. And so that's why I have them tattooed on my body, as a way of putting myself back together from that point in my life. And people usually get I'm a huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan, just because when people really ask for reasons, they really don't care. They just want a reason to look down on you and judge you in most cases. So I just don't give them that reason. But anybody who is truly honest and wants to know, I will explain why. There's also, I have paw prints on my leg. They look like little cat paw prints. And the reason those are there is because during that abusive relationship, it wasn't abusive, during that emotionally abusive relationship, I had a child, and I was not prepared to have a child. I was not ready to have a child. There was no way I was going to be able to take care of said child. And so I was with a group of midwives because that's what my insurance covered. And I said, hey, first off, if you are ever looking to adopt a child and you decide to go through a lawyer, or if you're ever looking to, if you don't want to go through abortion or anything like that, which is everybody's choice and right what they choose to do, and I'm not going to argue that fact, but if you ever decide that that's something you want to do, lawyers' offices, adoption lawyers' offices have people who make these basically pamphlets on why they'll be a good choice for you to give them your child. And it is the most heart-wrenching thing I have ever been a part of. And it is horrifying. You'll get these like packets of information and these literal brochures that people have made with letters of recommendation from friends and family, coaches, students, teachers, everybody. People in their community that think that they deserve another child and that they'll be able to take care of it for you. And to me, that was the most traumatizing thing I think I'd ever seen. Just because people feel that they have to beg and give all the reasons why they're going to be a great parent just to get a child is just heart-wrenching to me. So I went through that whole thing, and I was like, no. So I asked the midwives if they knew anybody that was struggling and would like a child. Trying to help. There was a couple that was a part of the practice I was at who were on their last surrogate egg and were struggling to have a child. And I said, hey, give them my contact information and we'll see what we can do. And the lack of a better way to put it, the baby daddy and I went to dinner with them and learned about who they were and asked questions and talked to them. And we did everything we could to understand why and what they were doing and who they were. And long story short, they looked at us and they're like, we hope you consider us for your child. We hope that, if you're interviewing other people, blah, blah, blah. And then both the baby daddy and I were like, we weren't interviewing anybody else. You guys were the ones we were. You became highly recommended by the midwives. They told us your story. You told us your story. I know that you really want a kid, and if this is what you want, we'd be happy to make sure that our child goes with you. So I became a birth mom, and the adopted mom forgot that she was pregnant because she was too busy focusing on me and making sure that I had everything I needed, and we were making doctor's appointments and stuff, and she forgot she was pregnant. So my child has a sister. That was the last surrogate egg that they did, and he's very protective of his sister, and is getting married. My son was getting married at the end of November, or middle of November this year. So yeah, but they were really wanting a kid, and there was no way I could take care of a kid. I was 20. There was no way. Turns out it was a really good thing, because the partner that I ended up afterwards liked kids in that way. And I'm still waiting for him to get his just desserts in life. I'm not sure he ever will, because Backroach, Georgia is Backroach, Georgia. But I hope and pray that one day he will get his just desserts for the things he did. He was physically and mentally abusive, as well as emotionally. And yeah, I didn't pick good ones back then. So yeah, that was a thing. That was my life. But I have paw prints for my kid on my leg, because we joked that they were the little lion cub, because dude, morning sickness sucked so bad. So yeah, it was the little lion cub, so I have cat prints down my leg. I have butterflies on my wrists here, and bats. These bats I got with my best friend. They were flash off the wall, but she got a little cheesy fairy, but that was our bonding moment. So those are for her. The butterfly wings and the butterflies are for me learning my independence. I actually have giant butterfly wings on my back, because when I turned 18, I decided I wanted wings, because I was going to get out on my own. Not to mention I was on my own at the age of 16, so it was just like, nah, I'm gonna show that I am flying, and so that's what I did. But tattoos are sacred to a lot of people, and depending on who you're talking to, they all have different meanings, or they have meanings for that person that they wouldn't have for anybody else. So if you see tattoos, instead of being judgmental, ask them what they're for. You will find that a lot of people have tattoos that you may never thought would have tattoos, only because they wanted them, because they had a meaning in their life that they wanted to put on their body. I also have, I read tarot cards, and I don't charge for tarot card services. I just don't, because I think it's silly. You shouldn't charge to give someone a peace of mind, in my opinion. But again, that's my opinion. We all know opinions are like assholes. Everybody has at least one of them. So I don't charge for tarot card services when I do them. We were at a burn called Alchemy. It is a regional Burning Man burn in Georgia that we were at one year. And after, if any of you are not familiar with Burning Man, basically at the end of the Saturday night, when everything's reached its peak, they basically set the main effigy on fire and then go to town. Everybody runs around it like a chicken with their head cut off. It's an amazing, fun event. If you ever get a chance to go, just go to one. It's worth it, every bit of it. But we were at an Alchemy, and we had just finished burning basically the 3-story effigy that we had built. And I take that back, this was Euphoria, which was their spring version, which is defunct now. It no longer exists. But we were sitting next to the fire. We had put some potatoes wrapped in tinfoil into the fire because it's a fire. Don't waste good fire potatoes. And I was sitting there with my tarot cards, just hanging out, playing around, reading. And somebody walks up to me and goes, "Hey, can you do a reading for me?" And I went, "Yeah, sure. Have a seat." Shuffle the cards. When the cards stop cooperating, hand them back. So they did, and turns out she was having some struggles, and she's like, "I know this is going to sound weird, and I'm pretty sure I'm having some struggles, and I really need some general, what am I doing with my life going on?" I said, "Okay, let's see what we can do for you." So I read her cards, and I said, "Hey, don't know anything about this person, have never met them before, and it shows me that I do what I do because people need it. We'd never met before," and I said, "Okay, so here's what's going on in your life. Looks like you have been given a very important role that you're really not sure what to do with, because it seems like everybody is fighting you on this, and that you really don't want to continue dealing with it, but you know that you need to take care of your friends and family. And there's lots of talk behind your back, and there's a lot going on that you don't want to admit that's going on. People are horrible, people are stupid, and crap's happening." And turns out her father had just died, and she was made executor of the estate, and the family was pissed that she had been made that. So they were arguing it in court, and it was airtight, but she was really frustrated, and understandably so. And so through all of that, her boyfriend's standing next to her, and she's like, "Thank you, I need to go make a phone call. Love you. Says, "I need to go make a phone call," and disappears for a little bit, and her boyfriend's standing next to her, and I look at him and go, "So when are you proposing?" And he goes, How did you know?" And I was like, "Well, you're right here. Here's the card that represents you, and you have been here for her through all of this so far, and it looks like you're contemplating a big commitment to her because of all this mess, and because you know she's worth it, because you're seeing her handle herself here." And he goes, "That's really unsettling." No, I know. I hate it when it works that way, but it does usually. So, and he goes, "Well, proposing her tomorrow morning at dawn when they burn the temple." So they have this temple thing where people go and write praises to the dead, living, wishes, everything. And he says, "Yeah, I have the ring in my pocket. I'm going to propose to her in the morning." And I said, "Here's where we're camped." And I pointed to our tent from where we were sitting. And I said, "I just want you to yell, 'She said yes,' when you walk by after you propose to her. We will most likely be half asleep, but I want to hear if she said yes." And he said, "I will definitely do that." And so about 5:30 the next morning, we hear somebody come by, and in the happiest, most wonderful voice, we heard, "She said yes." And there was much wooing from the tent, like, "Woo!" But turns out, he had actually gone through with it and proposed to her that morning, and she said yes. So I read tarot cards, and that's the reason I have the Empress and the High Priestess. Now, I did not know I was getting these cards. These were picks by my tattoo artist. That was part of the deal, that she's working on her own tarot cards, and she would pick a card for you the night before and draw the thing up and bring it to you. If you didn't like it, then you would pay $50 extra, and she would redraw it for you in whatever card. But you had to stick with that next card. And I was like, "Let's do it. And I'm down." Because again, I'm a tarot card person. I read tarot cards. This is what I do. And so I get there, and she goes, "Here's your High Priestess." And I went, "That's incredible." And I recently discovered church. Yeah, everybody does church if they want to do church, but I recently discovered church. growing up as a pagan who didn't do that whole churchy thing. And I have the high priestess and the empress. And the high priestess, for those of you who don't know, Mary Magdalene was Jesus' first disciple. So think on that, if you will. And I was a member of the Eastern Star in Georgia, Tennessee. Harmony chapter 432 or 423, one of those two. I was part of the Eastern Star, and I sat in the chair of Esther. And the chair of Esther is about Esther from the Bible, and she was queen. And basically her adopted father, Mordecai, tells her to tell the king that somebody's plotting against him and planning to do these things, but you have to pass it off as your own because they won't believe me because I'm a Jew. Well, the guy who is trying to do all this basically tries to get away with it, but she warns him ahead of time, and because he finds out that she's the one that warned the king, he gets super pissed, and he's like, this isn't gonna do, we're not gonna play this game, and basically tells her to basically says, I'm gonna kill all the Jews, because a Jew, he found out that Mordecai warned her, and he warned her, and he said, okay, the Jews gotta go. If he's gonna interfere with me gaining power, the Jews gotta go. So she herself, being Jewish but not out Jewish, goes to the king and says, I have a favor of you. And because that king loved her so much, she interrupted him in his court, and instead of saying, it's time for you to die for interrupting me, he goes, what do you need, my love? And she says, you told me that if I ever needed anything to place my hand on the scepter, and you would give it to me, no questions asked. So she puts her hand on his scepter, and he says, okay, what is it you wish? And she explains what happened and says, hey, please don't kill the Jews. And he says, the Jews saved my life. He's not to be killed. He's not to be harmed. And so she says, what are you going to do? And he says, well, he saved my life. He's not going to be harmed. So let's call the person in here who is the person to do all these things, and find out what's going on. So he calls the orchestrator into his room and says, hey, these things are happening in this situation. What would you do if you could see the person who was doing these things? What would your punishment be? And the guy, thinking he's gotten away with it, goes, oh yeah, I would do this and this and this, and we could punish him with this and this and this. And he goes, congratulations, this is your punishment. So Esther has this big choice, and she is the person holding the power in that situation. And she saves her people because she wasn't meek and mild and went, nope, this is happening, we're doing this. So that's why I was super excited when I got the Empress tattoo. So at this point, the tattoos that I got, just because I'm a tarot person, actually have new meaning in my life now that I'm on the journey that I'm currently on. So if you have questions about people's tattoos, by all means ask them. You're liable to get some really amazing stories. I have a degree in anthropology and a master's in library and information sciences with a focus in digital archiving. Now, that sounds like a whole lot of blah, 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 and it is. But what it boils down to is, I think that there are a lot of things that need to be documented in this world. And a lot of things that are probably never going to be documented in this world, given the state of things currently. That being said, I think that fairy tales and mythology are something that we need to keep our eyes on, because that's going to be what saves us in the end. And people are like, ew, what, why? Because they've always been there. Whether you want to admit it or not, you have always had some sort of fairy tale or mythology in your life at all times. Yes, I even mean Christians. Because if you talk to someone who is not of your faith, your holy book becomes a mythology to them, or a fairy tale. And I don't care who you are, that's how that works. That being said, all of these things are what keep us together and keep us as a culture and keep us whole and keep us in line with our views. It tells us how to pass on our thoughts and our feelings and our morality to the next generation. And people don't always see that, and they should. I just wanted to see if I could get back online and do things, so here I am. I'm going to head out for now, but I'm going to try and make this a more permanent thing, doing it at least once a week, maybe twice a week. So keep an ear out. I will try and post a schedule once I figure one out. But I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, and remember, kindness is free. It costs absolutely nothing to be kind to one another. And if you teach your kids arts and crafts, you will never